Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Welcome to the press conference following the video conference of Ministers of Trade. I have with me on the room the Portuguese Minister of Foreign Affairs, Santos Silva, and Commissioner Vice President Valdis Dombrovskis. I'd like to apologize for the delay and already to let you know that we will have a very short press conference. The Minister will start with first statements and then the Commissioner. Please, Minister, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon. This was really a very productive meeting, the informal video conference of the trade ministers. We focused on the review of the European trade policy. The communication by the Commission was a very good starting point for our discussion, and it, of course, it will be the basis on which we shall build a project of conclusions to be approved in our next formal meeting in May. The trade policy is a very important means of the European policy, and of course it has to be done in full accordance with the Sustainable Development Goals, and it has to be an instrument to build up our digital and green transformation and to help us recovering our economy. It is also very important the role the European Union has to play in the reform of the World Trade Organization. So I think it was a very productive meeting, and the presidency will take into consideration all the contributions provided by the member states, and I do appreciate the work of the Commission, and I thank the Vice President Valdis Dombrovskis for his participation in our meeting.
Thank you, Minister. Vice President, please.
Honorable Mr. Minister, ladies and gentlemen, today I had a very welcome opportunity to present the new EU trade strategy to member states. The strategy is based on key ideas of openness, sustainability and assertiveness. The strategy will determine our approach to trade policy for the coming decade. First of all, trade policy must contribute to our economic recovery. We will rely on exports more than ever to help us bounce back from COVID-19 pandemic. So we are reaffirming our commitment to open, fair and rules-based trade. This is not just EU idealism, it's economic and political necessity. As part of the strategy, we have published a detailed plan for the WTO reform, because global trade requires global rules. Trade policy also needs to make a bigger contribution to wider EU priorities. In particular, trade must support green and digital transformation of our economies. In this way, the Commission is for the first time putting sustainability at the heart of trade policy. The communication also outlines the need for Europe to be more assertive in trade context. This means a clear shift towards implementation and enforcement of our negotiated rights. We have already built a lot of enforcement tools, and there will be more at our disposal when needed. The communication stresses the importance of our global relationship. In December, we outlined a 5-point plan for a new transatlantic agenda. Now that we have a new administration in DC and soon the new US trade representative, we have a good opportunity for a reset. We want to put our trade disputes behind us and focus on joint leadership in global level. We want to maintain a realistic, multi-pronged approach in dealing with China. Closer to home, we will place a strong focus on our neighborhood region and Africa. This is an important strategic pivot for the EU. The adoption of the communication is only the beginning of Commission's engagement with Member States. We will continue to work closely with Member States and also European Parliament to ensure their full support and ownership of this new approach. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice President. We'll now open the floor for a couple of questions. As I told you, we don't have much time. So you know the rules, state your name and where you work for, and who you address your question to. So first question to Sarah Ann Aurup from Politico, please.
Thank you very much. This is a question for the Minister. My question is regarding Mercosur. I work for Politico. Yes, have you used your time in Brussels to discuss the EU-Mercosur agreement, or do you plan to? And if so, can you please give us an update on the state of play, and especially regarding a sustainability annex and a possible split deal? Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Minister, please.
Thank you very much for your question. Of course, we are, as the presidency, we are engaged in advancing in the finalization of the process concerning Mercosur. And I think we need some clarifications. These clarifications are possible, are feasible, and the contacts that I have already made with my fellow counterparts in the Mercosur and region, and also with member states of the European Union, lead me to think that these clarifications can be done. And I do say that the communication by the Commission is paradigmatic in addressing the Mercosur issue. And if you allow me, I will quote page 19 of the communication on the trade policy review by the Commission. Quote, in the case of Mercosur, a dialogue is ongoing on enhancing cooperation on sustainable development dimension of the agreement, addressing the implementation of the Paris Agreement and deforestation in particular. This is what we have to do, to work with our Mercosur partners in order to clarify that we need the cooperation on sustainable development dimension of the Mercosur Agreement, addressing particularly the issue of the Paris Agreement obligations and also the need to combat deforestation. And of course, the presidency will work with the Commission in order to fulfill this commitment.
Thank you, Minister. Do you want to add something, Vice President?
Thank you. Well, I think Minister already outlines the main elements. Indeed, we are now in contact with Mercosur authorities to work on additional sustainability commitments, notably to address deforestation and to address questions related to adherence with Paris Agreement. We will be seeking those commitments to make sure that we are able to move towards successful ratification of the agreement. On exact form for the ratification, those decisions are taken on case-by-case basis following the legal scrutiny of the document.
Thank you. Next question, Philip Blenkinson from Reuters.
Hello, Philip Blenkinson of Reuters here. Thank you for taking the question.
Sorry, Philip, can you speak up, please?
Hello, can you? Yeah, okay. My question is actually about WTO.
No, we cannot, sorry, we cannot hear you. Sorry.
Okay. Does it work now?
Not really, no, sorry. I'll have to move on. Sorry, Philip. Jim Brunsden from FT.
Hi, thanks very much for giving me the question. I'm Jim Brunsden from the Financial Times. It's a question for the Executive Vice President. What were the main points of feedback you actually got, the specific feedback you got on the trade policy review today, and what do you make of that feedback? Thank you.
Thank you. Vice President, please.
I would say that overall the feedback from trade ministers has been positive. So there was broad support for the main directions of EU trade policy, for openness, for sustainability, for assertiveness. Of course, there are number of issues and elements which still needs further to, where we still need further to work on, for example, on a sustainable part, on advancing indeed this link with climate, on questions how we are going to proceed with a WTO reform. But all in all, I would say that the reception from the ministers was positive.
Thank you. Minister, do you want to add something?
Well, I confirm what the Vice President is saying. The ministers expressed very important support to the communication of the Commission, and we are all aware of what are our obligations, what we have to do in the next future to make our acts coincide with our words. Thank you.
Thank you. Philip, do you want to try again? No.
Yes, but sorry, does that work now?
Sorry, no.
That doesn't work?
No, and the interpreters cannot hear you. I'm so sorry. You can send a message bilaterally. Sorry. Okay, so we will close it for today. As I told you, we were very short on time. Thank you all for coming, and see you soon.